Hi there. Now we will be covering certain presentation generalities. When evaluating a log, we will be covering certain key aspect of the presentation. So we'll be talking about headers, annotations, casing annotations, standard field areas, the trailer, the repeatability, calibrations, etc. Well, for this purpose, I have an example log on the left side and the manual on the right side. We will be jumping from one to the other. Well, in this case, we have an API header. The first thing to add here is that there is no unique standard API header. It will change from one service company to the other, but it should comply with certain API norms or standards. We'll have a video, and a specific video for the API header. Well, here's our tool, the wheel diagram. And now, when watching a section of the log, this part here is called the header. It should have the service company logo, and like this one, and a name of what this information is about. It could be like the main section. In this case, this is a cement log. It's a free pipe section, so it should have the scale. This one doesn't have it. In this case, this is a 5-inch log. We'll see later on what this 5-inch means. But here we have key information. It could also be like casing check, quality pass, main pass, repeat section, etc. The trace label, well, here you can see it like this curve. Each one has its label. One thing about this is to avoid using the mnemonics, because certain tools, they use like a specific mnemonics, and that will change from one service company to the other. So it would be better to use broad acceptable terms like gain array, pipe amplitude, instead of sometimes not so easy mnemonics to understand. The trace width should be the rule is keep it standard, uniform, consistent. There's no like a specific value for this. By the way, these are just suggestions. This is not like a specific norm, but these are just what you should expect. Minute mark, they show you the speed of logging. It should be, this one doesn't have it either. It should be little ticks in this part of the log here. If you read it, if you see the blanks and count how many feet, you can check this, how many feet per hour this log was wrong. Annotations. If there are many type of annotations in this, let's jump to the example in the manual. In this one, we're talking about TD annotations. You can see TD, and in this case, is determined by the pickup of the curve, of the tension curve here. The first reading, those are really important as well. Once you start logging, the first reading is like lowest depth for each sensor. Casing annotation, you can see it right here in this area, CSG, and we're determining here the casing depth from the resistivity curves. We have two examples. In this case, we're using the microspherically focused log. This is spike. It determines where the casing is. Trace labeling. Well, the point is to have clear names for each of your curves. The example in the manual, we have caliper bit gain array, and this one ZCL, like here, identified each one, the gain array, eccentricity, ovality, pipe amplitude. Hey, this pipe amplitude, I don't see it. Yeah, this one is missing. Maybe not the best example. Depth label. You will see that sometimes, first of all, this terminology is very common. A 5-inch log. What this means is that if you print a log a 5-inch log, and you measure 5 inches on paper, it should cover 100 feet of information. A 5-inch log is the same as 1/240 scale, and let's do the math to explain you where that 240 came from. So in 100 feet we have 1,200 inches. If you divide that by 5, you got 240. So the same analogy goes from the other scales. And a quick comment on this is that sometimes you will see that express each 50 feet, like this one. On the manual, it goes from 1,800 to 1,850. The other log, you can see it here, 850 to 900. But sometimes it jumps from in 100 steps, 100 feet steps. So traces inside casing, well, these are regarding resistivity tools. You know, the readings from a resistivity tool will be valid just until casing, but it is a common standard or approach or costume to print at least 10 feet of data inside of casing just to show like, hey, the tool was still alive. Plot ranges, those will be determined by the customer. They will say, hey, please log up from this depth to this depth. The repeat section is a good standard to have 200 feet of valid data of all your sensors to compare your main pass with your repeat section. The borehole volume ticks and the annular hole volume ticks, they're usually printed on the depth track. The most common is to find the borehole volume on the left and the annular borehole volume on the right. The integrated transit time ticks, you also will find those. Just keep in mind that the median tick is bigger than the minor. In this case, it's 10,000 microseconds per foot, and the other one is 1,000 microseconds per foot. You can see it on the way right here, medium and the small. Standard area fails. Yeah, these are the most common. Shale, you will see it like when your gamma ray overgrab retire, it will be filled with this shale. When neutral porosity reaches lower than the density porosity, you will see a blank or white field. And then when the caliper reaches less than the bit side. So the type of rates, you will see this one, and this one. The logarithmic is the most common when checking resistivity tools, resistivity information or resistivity logs. Presentation, attachments and parameter reports, calibration and verification. So let's go to the bottom of this example. You will see the FreePy section, repeat section, main section, and after all the information that we were interested in, you see a parameters report. Each parameter will be related directly to the service that it's been run. So this is a cement evaluation job. We'll have cement evaluation parameters. A calibration report also related to the tools being lowered in the hole. This is a specific calibration report, then a tool string diagram. You should get familiar with this. And that's the end. The API trailer. This is like, hey, this is the end. There's nothing more here. So depth correlation, if you're doing several runs into the well, make sure that the second run matches depth with the first one. 1 foot is like the tolerance for discrepancy between, for instance, the gamma ray in your second log. Well, not just the gamma ray, all your curves on the second log compare with the curve in your first log. Repeatability is really important. One thing about repeatability is that it depends on many factors. Like you can see it here: login speed, quality of pad content, if a pad mounted device, all these statistical variations. So for some tools you should expect a high repeatability, but for some others it doesn't have to match 100% because of the statistical variation. Keep that in mind. Calibration quality, the tool should be calibrated, and before and after verifications are required for most of the tools. And that's it. So thank you very much for watching.